Hello, YouTube. Today we are talking about planning a accessible wedding or just a wedding in general on a cruise ship. We did ours with Royal Caribbean on Harmony of the Seas. They have a great package there that's all catered for you. There's several advantages to doing this and disadvantages. We're going to touch on all of that in this video to see if this is a good idea for you or not. To start with, I'd like to point out that there's about 4 or 5 different plans that they offer based on your needs, and they all allow for a different number of guests to attend the wedding with you, and at different times of the cruise. Sometimes the people will have to be sailing with you. Others, like what we chose, they do on embarkation day, so that the guests that are not sailing with you can still attend the wedding, and then they are escorted off the ship after the wedding and reception is finished. So the package we chose was called Embark on Romance package. Yeah. That's done on embarkation day, the day that you check into the cruise ship. They have a coordinator that works with you to plan all this out. You will show up rather early, about 9:30 to 10 o'clock in the morning. They'll start escorting everybody on right around 10:30 to 11, but they want you there early, ready to go. And not just want you there, but they also want the bride to have her makeup and hair ready to go.
So what I did in this situation, Harmony was out of Point Canaveral, so a lot of us got hotels near the port the day before, and which made it very convenient. My makeup and hair lady actually stayed at the hotel along with us. So all my bridesmaids were there. They got their hair and makeup done, and then I was the last one to get hair and makeup done. So, ladies, if you choose this option, just keep that in mind. I had a particular style that I wanted my hair, and we did something so when everybody saw me, they didn't know what it was. And then once we got into the room to get ready for the wedding, then it was revealed to my bridal party. But so, yes, your hair and makeup has to be done before you get to the port.
Right. They will give you a room to get ready in. Yeah. And you have about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes to get ready before the ceremony starts. Yeah. But you don't really have a whole lot of time, so they want you to be as prepared as you possibly can.
Yeah.
We also chose this package because the base package allowed for 50 guests, and they had an opportunity to expand that by an additional 25 guests, and we wanted about 65 to 70 guests at our wedding. So this package made a lot of sense. Of all those guests, we only had 2 other guests that were actually sailing with us, so the vast majority of our guests were escorted off after the wedding.
Yeah.
So we'll go into some detail on how that works as well and how they're able to get on the ship.
So as far as for me getting ready, they allowed me and my girls and my parents and whoever else I wanted in the room to come with me to the cabin that we were going to be in once we sailed. Now, because none of his groomsmen were sailing on this ship with us, they got ready near the venue.
We came dressed from the hotel, so we were pretty much ready to go. But they did have some restrooms and changing rooms there that they could have used if they needed to.
So if somebody else in your party is sailing along with you after the ceremony, then the guys could have been taken to that cabin, was my point. So once we were taken to our cabin, once it was ready, we kind of hung out, relaxed, taking pictures in the room, and then we got ready. And then when it was time, the wedding coordinator came and got us and escorted us to the venue.
While you were getting ready in the room, we were actually in the venue doing a large number of photographs. They had a professional photographer in there taking pictures with me and the other groomsmen and a lot of the different guests there. And we actually lucked out. We got the venue that we wanted, which on this particular ship happened to be called Dazzles. It has a really nice 2-story window of glass that overlooks a portion of the ship. So really nice.
it overlooked the back of the ship. So it was really pretty. You got to see the ocean and everything too.
Right. These wedding packages are very plan based. You don't get to deviate a lot from these plans, which
Right.
is a good thing and a bad thing. Um, you don't have the complication of worrying: is your DJ going to show up on time? Is the wedding cake going to be ready for you?
It's
That
a
stuff's
food.
all taken care of by the wedding planner and the cruise line. Um, that said, you don't really have a whole lot of choices. You have about 5 or 6 different choices on cake flavor and 3 or 4 choices on filling.
And speaking
Um,
of cakes, you don't get to do cake testing because it is a moving ship. So you kind of have to just pick and go with it. But our wedding cake was fabulous. It was so good.
right. Now, when we did this, it included 1 hour of photography in the package. However, looking at their website, it looks like that has been removed from the package that we did, and they now offer several different packages of professional photography and videography. That's something you're probably going to want to consider. And um, that was not something that we had to factor in the cost of our wedding. That was included for us, but it definitely would play a factor now looking at the prices that they have.
Right. Yeah. But the biggest thing, I mean, as a bride, and some grooms fall in this category as well. For me, it was just a little less stressful, I guess, not having to worry about, like he mentioned, is your music entertainment going to be there? Is your cake going to be delayed? Is your the food, is it not ready? They do provide some tables and they do have tablecloth, but as far as decorations, there's not a whole lot of decorations. And the
Yeah, you're
only down
encouraged to bring your own decor.
right, you can bring your own decor. That being said, you're not allowed to bring your own fresh flowers on there. They do have that, I believe, available as an option.
They
Um,
do. You can pay for it, and it is
you can
rather
pay for it.
expensive. Or you
How
can bring silk or
Which is what
vinyl. Right.
I did. We had the silk flowers, we made our own bouquets and all of that. And it turned out wonderful. I mean, it was so easy when we were doing our bouquets. My mom and my bridesmaids, I mean, we were all together doing that together. So it was a lot of fun being able to spend that time together as well. Um, as for gifts, we told all of our guests that we would prefer, because we knew that we had a house built, that we were having a house built, and we were going to need some things for that. That we said, if you feel obligated to get us a gift, we would, recommend a gift card if you don't mind to, our local shopping stores down here, furniture stores. Or if they had an actual gift, to arrange to get it to us previously before getting to the port. Because if you go to the port with it at the cruise terminal, they have to open it.
Yeah, it
So
has to go through security to get
if
on
it's
the ship.
if it's wrapped, they're likely to unwrap it. So, and it's just more stuff that other people have to consider getting back off the ship for you. So just something to keep in mind.
Right. Some other things that we had to consider. They're fairly strict with security. This being a cruise ship, we had to provide a list of names of all of our guests 90 days in advance.
Yes.
So we had to have our guest list pretty much shored up. We couldn't add people last minute or remove people last minute. 90 days in advance, we needed to submit that list of everybody's name along with some form of ID, like a driver's license number or a passport number.
Or for kids, we need their birth certificate.
Correct. And the process for our guests when they were checking in through security that morning was they would go to a security desk. They would be handed a visitor badge that they could wear on the ship, and they would actually leave their ID with the security officer there at the port.
Correct.
So, like a driver's license or a state issued ID, they would leave there. And when you got off the ship, you would turn your visitor badge back in to get your ID back.
Yeah. We ran into a bit of an issue on that. When my mom had to be escorted off, she had laid her visitor's badge down on the table when we were doing pictures. and kind of forgot about it. So found it, and our wedding coordinator ran it down there for her. So it all worked out in the end.
It did, and I'm sure she would have been able to get her ID back, but
Yeah,
it definitely is easier if you hold on to those visitor badges.
yeah,
So once we were on the ship, and while we were getting ready for the wedding to start, while Mindy is getting ready in the room and I'm in the venue, our guests did have some ability to explore the ship, especially the smokers that we had in our party. They were able to go up on deck and have a smoke up there and explore the ship a little bit. They were not given the freedom to go to things like the buffet or anywhere like that, and they only had a few minutes to go and do that before the ceremony started. But they did have a small opportunity to do that.
yeah.
Um, some other things that we had here, we did entertainment. We booked a piano player for our wedding. There were several options that we could select from between a soloist, like a guitar player or a piano player or a violinist. They also had a two-piece arrangement. They had DJs, and
Mm.
they also had an option where you could just bring a USB drive of whatever music you wanted played in the venue, and they would play that for you as well.
Yeah. So we
Um,
opted for the piano.
Correct, yes, and they did kind of ask us ahead of time if there was anything special we wanted.
Right.
Of course, if we did, we would have had to provide sheet music for that, so we just kind of went with their options to
Right. And
begin with.
they also asked you like what music do you want to play for your, your bridal party coming in and the bride coming in. So you do have your choice and say over that. So which was nice.
Right. Other than that, what else? We had a three-tier wedding cake. It was really a
Yeah.
beautiful cake. Um,
Um,
they actually did customize that a little beyond the options that we had. Some of our family's incredibly picky, and they just
yeah.
wanted some buttercream frosting, which was not one of the options here. They had
Right.
some fancier options, and we wanted just a plain buttercream.
We did vanilla
Um,
with that because one of the options that we did, which is still available, is a chocolate with the raspberry filling. It was so good.
it
And
was, yeah,
then he liked red velvet. I'm not a fan of red velvet, but he loved the red velvet. So we did both of that. So then the vanilla, just kind of plain, simple for those picky people that are in my side of the family.
right. And they
But
would make each tier of the cake a different flavor
yeah,
for us as well, so we had some variety there. And then
yeah,
food options. We were able to select between hors d'oeuvres or some food stations. All of this is extra. We had to pay for any of these options.
the cake is included.
Correct, but
Um,
the hors d'oeuvres and the food stations were not
right,
included.
those are an extra cost.
Those were extra. We chose to go with food stations because it was around lunchtime. We thought our guests might be hungry.
Being that they got there at like 9 in the morning, 9:30.
Correct. And
Yes,
we ended up going with a pasta station, which was pretty good.
it was good.
And it had options on that pasta station for most people.
Yes, there was one like I'm a big fan of chicken Alfredo, and their cream sauce had mushrooms in it, and I don't really care for mushrooms. So if you're like me and you don't, they will customize that for you because they did for me.
Right.
So
Well,
that was nice.
you did need to make that known ahead of
Yeah,
time with the coordinator before we got on board, not day of.
yeah,
It
not the
definitely
day
needs
of. It was
they need a
planned
little
ahead of
planning.
time. So, in talking about coordinators, let me back up here for a minute. When you decide that if this is the route that you would like to go and you contact Royal Wedding, you will then be in touch with a wedding coordinator on that end. And they do everything by phone, like they'll contact a time to talk to you over the phone. We did lots of emails back and forth to make sure that we were all on the same page. And our wedding coordinator that we had that way, she was wonderful. And then when you get to the port the day of, then you have an actual wedding coordinator there to meet you. And so then she takes that place of the person that was kind of that we were dealing with by email and whatnot, a live person. So she handles everything the day of. So two different people, but you meet her that. And the wedding coordinator that we met at the port will actually get in contact with you. But they reach out to you to kind of let you know that this is who they are, they're going to be working with you, this is where we're going to meet up, all of that to make it hassle free the day of.
Yeah, and it really was. It was pretty painless.
Yes.
I think now we need to talk about alcohol.
Oh yes, everybody's favorite if you're a drinker.
Right. So
Yes.
they did have bar service available there.
Yes.
It was a package based, so we needed to purchase the alcohol package. It's per person and per hour. So we only went with 1 hour
Yes.
for all of our guests, and it's not selective. So if you have 50 guests, if any of them are under 21, they get the soda option and juice option. If you have 40 guests that are all over 21, but only 30 of them drink, doesn't really matter. You're going to be paying for all 40 to have that package, whether they use it or
Right.
not.
I mean, if you're not a drinker, then you can get your mocktails,
Correct. Yeah, but you will definitely be paying for that alcohol, whether they use it or not.
So what we did is it was supposed to start at 12, and the ceremony was supposed to be done by 12:30, and then we did pictures. So then we opted to do that hour of alcohol.
Yeah, it's like the reception
Yes.
hour. Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, they did photos and things like that, right?
And eating. Yeah.
And we definitely got our use out of it.
Yes, everybody loved it.
It was very very open on the selections as well. We got everything from shots to some fancy drinks, and they had some that were pre-prepared, some very common like margaritas and rum punches and things. They had those set up already ready to go. But if you wanted something custom, they had a bartender there that would make it as well.
Or if you wanted to do shots like you and your groomsmen did,
correct.
A fireball,
Right.
they had that as well. I remember my cousin, I was drinking what they call a Midori sour. It's a green drink. And my cousin across the room said, "Hey, what's that?" She goes, "I'm going to have to try that." So when she did, and she goes, "That's really good." So then several other people got it because they saw that I got it.
Right.
But yes, it was overall, everyone really loved it.
Right. So immediately after the ceremony, once we finished the wedding and the reception is starting, they escorted us for about 20 to 25 minutes around the ship to some of the more scenic places where they did photography with you in your wedding dress and me in my tux. They also did some photography with the bridal party as well.
Right, but the first 20, 25 minutes after the ceremony, it was just me and him. So we got lots of pictures of just me and him. And then, then we got the rest of the bridal party and all of that. So I mean, it was really nice to have that. And we ended up getting all of our pictures on a USB. So then we could just print and do, whatever we wanted to do.
Professionally printed when we got home at the sizes we wanted.
Right. But based on the number of guests you have, the package that we had, it included up to 50 people. If you go over that 50 people, they give you that option to go over 20, add 25 more. Now, like he mentioned, they need the guest list and everything. I think it was like 90 days before. So after that 90 days, if you want to add someone, you're going to have a hard time. You're not going to be able to do it. If you find out that someone's still not going to be able to make it, you're still going to pay for them, whether they're there or not. So it's like we ended up paying for some people that unfortunately at the last minute things came up and were unable to attend, which, we understand. But just be aware of that. So you want to make sure that you get your guest list to the people that you know that you want to have there and are going to be there. But just keep in mind that if something comes up, you're not going to get that money back on the ones that can't show.
Correct. And the ceremony started about noon.
Yeah.
And we had about a half-hour long ceremony. Then we did our photos for about another 20 to 30 minutes. We had the reception for about an hour and a half, and somewhere around 2:45 to 3 o'clock, they started calling for our guests that were not sailing to be leaving.
Yeah.
And they were all escorted back off the ship with our wedding coordinator who took care of all that
Yeah.
for them and got everybody back off the ship and through security wherever they needed to go. So, in addition to that, we got some nice little extras too. Our stateroom was all decorated up for us when we got back to it.
Well, that evening it was after dinner. Yes, it was all done. They also gave us a complimentary, specialty dining restaurant. However, we already had the ultimate dining package for it for our honeymoon. So the couple that did sail with us, we were actually able to use it for them. So they didn't have to pay for it.
Right.
We also got champagnes and strawberries.
We did.
We got breakfast in bed on one morning. So it was really nice overall. If I had to do all over again, for sure, 100%, I would say go for a cruise wedding because it is hassle-free in my opinion.
Now, in terms of accessibility, what did you think on doing the wedding on a cruise versus a traditional venue?
I think it was very easy. I mean, they made sure that you could get there, that people weren't in your way, the aisles were wide enough to be able to get around the table and everything that we had to do. I mean, they took all of that into consideration. It was very accessible. And that was one of my worries was, am I going to be able to get down there with my dad? Am I going to be able to get over to the cake to cut our cake? And it was. I mean, they were so considerate. Like I said, they took all of that into consideration. Now, ladies, one thing I will give you a piece of advice on, if you are in a wheelchair and you are getting married, just keep in mind what type of dress you're going to wear. Luckily, my dress, it had some tulle underneath it, which kind of made it stick up. My mom, she does some sewing and whatnot. She was able to go in there and cut all that out, so my dress laid flat. The only other thing I had done with my dress was it came with a built-in train. And afterwards, the wedding, most girls will, be able to bustle their train to their dress. Well, you can't do that in a wheelchair because it may drag or on the floor because you just don't need that. So what I did was I had my train bustled into my dress before I picked it up for my final fitting. So just something to think about. Just you don't want a big poofy dress. You got to be mindful of the wheels because it might get caught up in the wheels. And I just had to take into account for all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, we did have several children at the ceremony with us as well.
We did.
They all seemed to enjoy it. They didn't get open bar, unfortunately.
No.
That would have been interesting. But they did get sodas and juices.
They did, yeah.
All of them were able to partake with all the food options and cake.
And your nephew had 6 pieces of cake.
Correct. And we also got an opportunity to take some photos around the ship. Our ship had a carousel on it.
Yeah.
So they were all able to go down, ride the carousel, and get some pictures on there as well.
One of my favorite pictures is the photographer happened to get of our whole bridal party down there. The girls were with me, and then in the background you've got the carousel, and you've got Craig and the groomsmen all on the carousel, and she timed it just right. When the carousel went around, the groomsmen were right behind us. It ended up turning out to be like one of my favorite pictures of all of us.
Right.
So they get pretty creative.
And we got some great photos. That's not to say that there weren't an upsell attempt on the photos. When they showed us the pictures a couple days into the cruise, they had put together a video, an animated video of it, and slideshowed such music and everything else that they will try and upsell you on.
They will.
You just got to be persistent. Either you want it or you don't. Just tell them that's it.
Yeah. So I mean, it was a fun experience. I had a blast. And like I said, it was just stress-free, hassle-free, not having to worry about all of that stuff the day of, where many things can go wrong and trying to set up everything the day of.
Right.
So,
One thing I would recommend on this, especially with Royal Caribbean, they will do this package on any of their ships and any of their sailings. I definitely would recommend looking at some of their newer ships and some of their larger ships if you're going to do something like this.
right, because if you have a bigger package, like in our instance where it's 50 or 75, there's only certain venues that you can fit in. So if you do the smaller intimate package where it might be the 10 or so, then you can get into some of those smaller venues. But they will only tell you what venues you can use, and you have to have a backup venue just in case.
Right. And they'll select that for you, so you may not get your first choice.
Right.
But being on a newer ship and a larger ship, you have more selection of activities and there's more opportunity to do different things on the ship. It's also
Right.
got newer decor and it seems a little more pleasant to me.
Well, I mean, I was a little partial to Harmony because he also proposed to me on Harmony on one of our other cruises. So
Right.
it was just sentimental to me.
Okay. Well, any last minute recommendations?
No, I don't think so. Just like I said, you have to figure out if it's what you want. Is it, as far as cost wise, I think it was cheaper to do it on a cruise.
Well, it depends. There's a lot of options when you're going to get married. You
There
can go
is,
to the Justice of the Peace, get a marriage certificate, and have them marry you right there for 20
true.
bucks.
However,
But if you're renting a venue
right,
and you're going to bring in guests and you're going to bring in food and have a cake made and bring in entertainment, yeah, it probably was cheaper.
that's what I'm getting at. If you do I'm not going to say a traditional wedding, but if you do a wedding at a venue where you have all of that stuff versus doing it on a cruise where it's basically taken care of for you after you decide everything you want, and they set up it. To my opinion, I think it was more value for the money to do it on the cruise.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this video, YouTube. Leave us a comment below. Let us know what you'd like to see, what you think. Give us suggestions for our next video.
Thank you for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe.
Bye-bye.
Bye.